Welcome to the Eagles Checkdown, right here on the Eagles Pinpole Network, bringing you all the news, notes, and opinions on your Philadelphia Eagles. I'm your host, Shane Haff, pinch hitting for Phil, who is out on vacation this week. So sorry, you're stuck with me for the week, but Phil will be back next week as we head into the playoffs. But we are here on Overreaction Monday, reacting to the Eagles' 41-7 victory over Dallas. They win the battle of the backup quarterbacks, even going to their third-string quarterback. And in doing so, they complete the sweep of Dallas for the first time since 2011. They also extend the record 19 straight years that a different team has won the NFC East. I believe no other division in the NFL has gone more than 5 years without a repeat winner. The NFC East is nearly quadruple that right now. And this game started out slow. Noon games or 1 o'clock games for you East Coast people are tough for me because I don't get home and get to start watching the game until around the start of the second quarter. And I still watch from the beginning, not knowing what's happening, but I get to speed through the game. And so it doesn't fully land on me when the Eagles go back-to-back 3-and-outs because it's just compressed into a shorter time slot. So the Eagles did start the game slow, though. Back-to-back 3-and-outs, but then they scored on 6 straight possessions using 2 different quarterbacks before finally going 3-and-out again, up 41-7 at the end of the fourth quarter. This game was truly a next man up mentality. You come into the game with your backup quarterback in Kenny Pickett, and I thought Kenny Pickett played well. The first drive wasn't great, but after that I thought he did well. He threw out routes really well. He had a couple of nice throws to Devontae Smith on deep balls. And, it was nice to see him play well. Hopefully it gives the Eagles some options when it comes to quarterbacks in the offseason. Maybe you trade Pickett and you keep McKee. Maybe they trade McKee and they keep Pickett. But I thought both of these guys played well. But after a cheap shot on Kenny Pickett, re-aggravated the rib injury, he takes another hit that I thought was clean. But I can understand why people would be upset from Micah Parsons. And he ends up leaving the game. And Tanner McKee comes in. And Tanner McKee became the first player to have multiple touchdown passes in his NFL debut while attempting 5 or fewer passes. McKee looked like he belonged. Pickett looked like he belonged. That's really nice luxury for the Eagles to have, a team that's very invested in backup quarterback. Seeing those guys able to step up, and they're not world beaters, but able to step up and do enough to get a win. This is the first game the Eagles have won with a backup quarterback in 3 years. This hasn't always been the case for the Eagles. And the next man up mentality didn't just go on the offensive side of the ball. Warren Burks, inserted into the starting lineup for Nakobe Dean, who was out, led the team in tackles, and he also forced a fumble that was recovered by Jordan Davis. And so you can tell this team has that it factor. Guys are stepping up and making plays when needed. Nobody stepped up and made more plays in this game than Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who recorded 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 on the opening drive. He also later got an interception that could have been Quinyon Mitchell's first career interception. It was just it was a terrible pass by Cooper Rush, just a jump ball up there, and CJ GJ was the one that came away with it. And you love to see a bounce back game. After he got thrown out of the game last week, he comes in and he gets 2 interceptions. That brings his total to 6 on the season. And he started the year slow, but he has really come into his own down the stretch and is playing some of his best football at the moment. Speaking of playing best football at the moment, though, we got to talk about Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley rushes 31 times for 167 yards, and there was not much working in the run game early. But in the second half, it really opened up, and Saquon Barkley topped the 2,000-yard mark. He now sits at 2,005 rushing yards. He is one of only 9 players in NFL history to top 2,000 yards. The record is 2,105 yards, so he would need 101 yards to break the record next week against his former team, the team that didn't want to pay him, the team whose owner said on Hard Knocks, "I'm going to have nightmares if he ends up in Philly." That's right, the New York Giants come to town next week, and Saquon Barkley will have a chance to break the all-time record against his former team. The plot lines write themselves. He also holds the franchise record currently for most scrimmage yards in a season at 2,283. Phenomenal season from Saquon Barkley, who just continues to show up week in and week out. He had a funny moment after the game where he was talking about getting the hat and the shirt that said, NFC East champs after the game. And he said he didn't even know that people did that because he's never been on a team that did so. So you got to feel good for Saquon coming and, finally being able to be a part of a winning franchise. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of debates about how the Eagles should handle starters. And with the Green Bay Packers losing to the Minnesota Vikings, that locks the Eagles in at the 2 seed. There is no chance for the Eagles to get the 1 seed. And so it truly is a meaningless game next week, other than the record and other than potentially getting Jalen Hurts some live reps. And so we'll have plenty of time this week to talk about and debate how the Eagles should handle that. We'll save that for another check down. The only other thing that I wanted to note that happened in this game was that Jake Elliott became the kickoff guy. Braden Mann has been the kickoff guy all season for the Eagles. Obviously, 2 weeks ago against Washington, special teams played a big part in why the Eagles struggled. I know they made this move to Braden Mann because the kicker is more likely to be involved in tackles given the new kickoff rules, and they didn't want Elliott to get hurt. Maybe they did this as a one-game thing because Kevontae Turpin is such a good punt return or kick returner that they just wanted to kick it out of the end zone, and Elliott's the only one with the leg to do that. Maybe they value Elliott a little less because he hasn't been the asset on long field goals this year. I'm not sure why they made the switch. It'll be interesting to see if they stick with that next week against the Giants or if they trot Braden Mann back out there. But that's going to do it for this Overreaction Monday episode of the Checkdown. You guys keep it tuned here to the Eagles Pinpool Network all week. We're going to have a lot of shows coming your way, recapping the Cowboys game, getting you ready for what is essentially a meaningless Week 18 game, but more importantly, heading into the new year with a 2 seed, with a playoff berth already secured. So again, I am Shane Haff, your guest host for the Checkdown this week on the Eagles Pinpool Network. You guys have a great day, and go Birds.